All right, today we're diving into a book that's not just a #1 bestseller, but an absolutely incredible true story from the heart of World War II. It's this amazing tale of survival, of brotherhood, and it follows two totally different worlds that are, destined to crash into each other.
And look, the critics agree. One called it a magnificent work of narrative nonfiction. And that really nails it. This quote about revealing the best and worst of humanity, that's the core of it. It takes this historical event and makes it feel so relevant, so essential for right now.
So, what makes this book so powerful? Well, it's all in how the story is told. It's not your typical straight-line narrative. Instead, the author does something brilliant. She weaves together two totally separate journeys, like two trains on different tracks, on opposite sides of the war, but they're heading toward the same single fateful moment. And here they are, these two worlds. On one hand, you've got Eddie Willner. He's just a teenager, and he's living through the absolute nightmare of a Nazi death camp. Then, on the other side of the world, you have Company D, an American tank crew fighting their way across Europe. I mean, can you imagine two more different experiences of the exact same war? Okay, so let's start with that first story. Let's start with Eddie's journey. It all begins with a young boy whose entire world is about to be completely torn apart.
16. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how old Eddie Willner was. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't even really a man yet. He was just a kid when he was thrown into the absolute horror of the Holocaust.
And his story, wow, it just becomes this incredible testament to human endurance. He's ripped from his home, forced into slave labor right alongside his father. And for 3 long, agonizing years, through starvation, brutality, everything you can imagine, he just keeps fighting to survive. He finds a way to keep going, even inside the gates of Auschwitz. Okay, so now let's switch gears. Let's go to the other side of the world. Because while Eddie is literally fighting for every breath, a group of American boys are getting ready to join that same war. But they have absolutely no idea what's really happening over there. No idea about the reality Eddie is living.
So who were these guys? Were they, some elite special forces? No way. They were just ordinary kids, farmers, factory workers, coal miners, guys pulled from their everyday lives and thrown into the biggest, most brutal war the world has ever seen.
These guys became Company D in the famous 3rd Armored Division. And believe me, they got tough. They became a seriously battle-hardened crew. And get this, their leader, Captain Elmer Hovland, was only 23 years old himself. Just a kid, really, leading other kids through the absolute chaos of the war in Europe.
But you can imagine, that kind of fighting takes a massive toll. Day in and day out, just brutal combat. It wore them down physically and emotionally. They got tired, they got hardened, and they started to ask themselves a really tough question. Is any of this worth it? Is all this fighting, all this dying, what's it all for?
And right here, this is the moment. This is where everything changes. This is where those two separate stories, those two tracks we were talking about, separated by a whole continent, by language, by everything you can imagine, they finally, dramatically collide.
So you know that question they were asking? Is this all worth it? Well, they were about to get their answer. And it wasn't going to come from a general in a briefing or in a letter from their mom. No, the answer was about to appear, literally, right in front of them.
And then, all of a sudden, 2 figures step out of the woods. They're not soldiers. They're not the enemy they've been trained to fight. They're just boys. And they're rail thin, skeletal, looking like they've just escaped from hell itself.
And as these boys raise their arms to surrender, the soldiers see it. The tattoos, the numbers burned into their skin. And in that one single haunting moment, the war is no longer an abstract thing. The fight against evil becomes terrifyingly, horribly real. They finally understood right then and there what they were truly fighting for.
That incredible meeting, that's where you find the real heart of this book. Because it's so much more than just a war story. It's really this deep, profound look at what it means to be human.
The whole story just dives into these huge themes, right? You've got survival against impossible odds. You've got the incredible bonds that are forged in the middle of a war. It's about the resilience of the human spirit. And yeah, ultimately, it's about how good can triumph, even when faced with the absolute worst kind of evil. And so, it kind of leaves you with this one big, timeless question. How do we find our shared humanity in the darkest of times? When everything seems to be falling apart, how do we find that thing that connects us all? It is a truly unforgettable story of hope, of courage, It's called The Boys in the Light by Nina Willner. And guess what? The link to this book is in the video description.